Been a very unusual week. It's been a very big week for me. I've made a lot of videos that I just have been hoarding. And I've been mentioning different points in time that now are no longer relevant. So it's going to be interesting for you guys when you actually see these things uploaded. The other day, because it probably doesn't matter at this point, the other day, my sister came over with my brother-in-law. And we sat around and had a chat. And it was fun. And it was interesting. And yeah, so it's been a very interesting week, and there's one argument that Black Lives Matter people make that I have always kind of questioned the validity of, because it just felt wrong to me. And it felt wrong to me because it didn't apply to me. It was another one of those things, all white people have this, and I'm like, not me, So, but I didn't really know how to articulate a really good argument. I don't even want to say argument against it. I'm debunking it, more or less, if I may be so bold. The argument is that because of systemic racism, because of this system that has been built over generations and generations and generations in order to suppress black people with slavery, and then after slavery things weren't fucking fantastic, and then Jim Crow shit wasn't fantastic, and then there's all sorts of these rules and shit like that all the way up to the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up to today. There's still all sorts of racist rules on the books and stuff like that. And because of that oppression, white people have prospered more from passed down wealth than black people have. And it just felt wrong to me, because I am not going to be a possessor of passed down wealth. And I don't know many people who are possessors of passed down wealth. And it was just always something that was really, it felt wrong to me, but I never really could articulate what was wrong with it. And I just didn't have the brain power to think about that while I was thinking about everything else. But while you're thinking of other things, sometimes you get epiphanies on other subjects. And that happened to me. I was watching an interview with a cop, a Portland cop, who was just being interviewed by this journalist. And she's asking him questions about the fucking riots and shit like that. Apparently at this point they dated it at 70 some days into the riot, and she was like, how many of those days have you been there during the riots and stuff? And he's like, maybe half of those. So I mean, this dude's been there in the thick of it for a long time. So she's talking to him, and it just hit me. Here's just my situation, right? My father was left nothing. He didn't get anything passed down from his parents. A whole lot of circumstances there, and one of them being living to an extreme age. His mom lived until she was pretty old, and she was in care for much of that. So that cost money. And so she kind of ate through everything. It was just, there it is, gone. So he didn't really, him and his 5 siblings, they didn't really inherit a whole lot to split between them. So, what he has, it's because he made it. It's his money, right? He made that shit. And my mom, her mother, her father was in World War II. So after he got out of the war, he was discharged with Purple Heart and that whole thing, Bronze Star and whatnot and so on. And then he just lived on a pension. He was just retired military for the rest of his life. And my grandma, she lived off of all that shit, Social Security and whatnot, and whatever fucking money there was, until she died at 98 or some shit like that, and had eaten through everything. So, my mom didn't get any vast amounts of racist wealth passed down to her. And, you know, most statistically, my dad is probably going to pass away before my mom does. And my mom, statistically, especially if you go by the women in my family, she's going to live to the ripe old age of 560 and have eaten through everything by the time she passes away. So I'm going to get nothing. Like, I'm going to be working based off myself. And then I started thinking about, who do I know that is getting this vast passed down wealth? And I'm like, well, obviously it would have to be rich people. The 1%. Donald Trump, Paris Hilton, Kim Kardashian. These are people that are getting passed down wealth. But then I started even thinking about that. And I'm like, well, I'm sure there weren't a whole lot of Trump towers roundabouts in the Civil War era. So I don't know exactly at what point, you know, the senior Trump started making his wealth. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what the fuck happened there, but, you know, there also weren't a whole lot of Hilton hotels in ye old Civil War era. So somewhere along the line, somebody came along and said, you know, it'd be sweet here, big old fucking hotel. And then they built one, and it became the Hilton. And now it's a big thing, and Paris Hilton has a fuck ton of money. And even she is more or less self-made. She was famous for being rich, and she made wealth off of that. She is now her own wealthy person that has her own way of making money and stuff like that. And yet, when her parents pass away, most likely she is going to inherit a vast amount of that fucking passed down shit. I know she has a sister, don't know if she has any other siblings, but if she has a sister and nothing else, she'll get half. So, unless she's fucked up so bad she's gotten herself out of the fucking will, but nevertheless, she's still rich. She doesn't need their money to still be rich. She got rich because they had money and because she was rich. Now she's rich on her own. But she'll probably get some passed down wealth. And then if she has kids, that'll get passed down. Stacked on top of whatever her kids make because they're famous for being rich. Right? Like, that's now how money is filtered through the ages. Because somewhere along the way, somebody got rich. But, like, you know, because they're so in the news and because I know so much about it, Goodyear, for instance, made by the Cyberlings. And the Cyberlings, fucking, they were not cotton barons that became rubber people. Like, some dude that said, hey, I bet we could make some tires that would be fucking sweet. And he got together with some other people in a garage somewhere, started making tires, and people bought them. And then they expanded, and now they're a worldwide company. You gonna say that that's all from fucking racism? How? Because the tires are black? I don't get it. Like, what? So, that's why it doesn't make sense to me, because the bulk of people are not benefiting in any way from any sort of passed down wealth at all. So if you look at it from the respect of, most likely you're not going to get anything from your parents. And most likely you're not going to give anything to your children, because that's just kind of the basic thing. You're going to try and hope for the best and whatnot and so on and so forth. Try and do something, but you're going to live too until you die. So that kind of factors in how much money are you going to use when you're no longer producing for yourself. All of it, most likely. So it's the cost of our living age being so long now. People live for so goddamn long, they eat through everything. They have nothing to leave down to their kids. So what's the difference between my parents, who got nothing, me, who's most likely going to get nothing? I'm not leaving anything to anybody, so my shit will probably just, I don't know, the state will just collect, or who fucking knows what. No clue. I have to think about that. Come up with a will. But, yeah, like, I don't know. Fucking what are you doing? What's the difference between that and a black person whose parents had nothing but worked to provide something for their kids, and then they inherit nothing, and then they have to live off of their own work, and then their kids, maybe they get a little bit better, or maybe they can provide a little bit better life for their kids, and still leave them nothing. But yet that kid does a little bit better, and leaves a little bit nothing for their kid, but a better life. Maybe that's how wealth stacks like that. Maybe that's how each generation becomes a little bit better than the last, because every generation benefits from the desire for the parents to do better for their kids than they did for them, to give them a better education, because they know they weren't given a good education, and that's why they're fucking not doing so well. So I'm really going to press my kid into getting a good education, because that's important to me. It's where I think I got fucked in my life, and I don't want my kid to get fucked from that shit. So I'm going to really drill that shit into their head, because it's fucking important. And then there you go. That kid comes out a little bit smarter, so they can do a little bit better. And then their kid, they go, well, my parents really drilled a good education and benefited me, so I'm going to do the same thing. And then that kid comes out a little bit smarter and a little bit richer. Right? Like, that's how fucking shit works. But each generation is still left fucking nothing from the generation before it. You didn't get shit because I lived long enough to eat all the money away. Bitch. And I made you take care of me for the rest of the time. That's the ultimate trick of the elderly upon the young these days. They leave you nothing but as good of a life as they can provide. That's your inheritance these days. Did your parents get you a good education? That's your inheritance. That's what makes you more money. Did they give you good moral standing? Did they give you a good moral compass? Did they give you prudence? Did they give you the lessons, wisdom that you can take with you through life and succeed by using? Are you able to think? Can you think for yourself? Are you creative in your thought? Can you solve problems? These are the type of things that parents should be drilling into their kids if they want their kids to have a good life. Not the idea that because the system was inherently racist, because at one time there was black people that were in slavery, that the system was built upon that, and because of that, you cannot succeed. Yeah, that's a great fucking lesson. Let's teach everybody that shit. You can't succeed. Because you know what breeds failure more than telling somebody they can never succeed? I don't. I have no clue what would do a better job than just telling somebody you can't succeed from the get-go and constantly drilling that into their head. I don't know. But I think I fairly well debunked it. Like, you have to show me who it is that's actually benefiting off the back of cotton people. Fruit of the Loom. I guess. I don't even fucking know. BVDs. People that make socks. I don't even know, man. Who? And is that even fucking, who knows? This could have been some immigrant that came over and said, wow, this cotton stuff is great. Ooh, that's how you guys used to get it? You don't do that anymore, do you? Oh, okay, good. Well, I could do something with this stuff. Can I get some? Like, man. Until somebody can actually point to somebody and say this person is leaving down wealth, and show me a trend of that person being reproduced multiple times in huge dramatic ways that really are still keeping black people down. Like, yeah, the Jim Crow era shit, yeah, keeping black people from being educated, that was really fucked up. But now we do everything we possibly can to encourage black people to get a good education. And what do the Democrats teach them in schools? You can't succeed because the system's against you.